Next, we have 6.7, consideration of federal update. Ooh, I have an erratum. Let me fix that. Right? The erratum? Yeah. Okay. Consideration of a federal update administration for children and families. Mass layoffs for discussion. Consideration of federal updates. And we
Yes,
have
thank you. I have.
Director Dillman Parsons here.
Is
With
this working?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Rachel Dillman Parsons, Social Services Director. With me here today are Kelly Page, my Deputy Director over Fiscal, and Dina Eddings Green, our AAA Area Agency on Aging Program Coordinator. We also invited many of our partners today to provide public comment. Would you like them to comment per update? I have a very long list of updates.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I did throw together a PowerPoint that I'm going to go ahead and share, just so we know where I'm at as I go through our updates. Okay. Here we go. And I need to change my presenter view. Okay, so today's federal updates are going to include facts and analysis for you regarding the potential impact to social services, as well as the Area Agency on Aging, Section 8 housing, and our partners within the community who serve the public that we serve. To be clear, I am a public servant, and I do not lobby, nor do I express my political opinion. It is my obligation under Welfare Institution Codes 10500 to secure for every person the amount of aid to which they are entitled without comment or criticism. And social services mission is to promote social and economic self-reliance and protect those who are at risk. So today I'm going to go over our proposed budget. The proposed federal budget, not my proposed budget. It is still in the process. I will give you a high-level overview of what it currently looks like. I'll share some data with regard to what Lake County looks like in terms of social services, including the funds that currently come into our county. We'll look at some enacted changes, which are not cuts or layoffs, but do impact service delivery for the people we serve. And then we'll take a look at actually enacted cuts and layoffs. And they're coming fast. I'm doing my best to keep this comprehensive. I may have missed some. The County Welfare Directors Association is analyzing all of this, but they have not yet released their full analysis. I have been in contact with them, and they are coordinating with CDSS, the California Department of Social Services. And I do have a directors meeting with CWDA on Friday, at which I may have more information to share after that. Okay, so here is what the federal budget potentially will include, as well as some information with regards to California's funding. So these federal cuts, layoffs, tariffs, and this proposed budget will be putting our most vulnerable, our seniors, veterans, disabled individuals, children, and families at risk. They will also create a barrier to economic self-reliance. So for historical purposes, or just for reference, the federal budget year runs October through September, and the federal government has been operating on a continuing resolution while they work on finalizing the federal fiscal year 25 budget. There is a continuing resolution that has approved continuation of services at 2024 levels, which is better than nothing, and it is approved through September. However, the House did pass a budget, and the Senate has picked that up and started negotiations. It looks like we're going to have a final budget by May prior to expiration of the September continuing resolution. That happened this Saturday. The Senate passed that amended budget April 5th, It definitely includes proposed cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, the Affordable Care Act, SNAP, and a variety of other programs that serve the public. For clarity, Medicaid is known in California as Medi-Cal, and many of our residents here in Lake County may know it as Partnership. That is the managed care provider for Medi-Cal in Lake County. And SNAP is known as CalFresh in Lake County and formerly known as food stamps. Many people still know it under the name of food stamps. So this plan does lack specifics. It essentially directs the committees to find savings pending reconciliation. And reconciliation is when the House and the Senate come together and agree to a final budget to put before the president for his approval. Some experts are positing that the lack of specifics is to allow for that negotiation between the Senate and the House, and also to make it less clear exactly what they intend to cut from Medicaid. Okay, here's what Lake County looks like, what my department, Social Services, is delivering on a monthly basis to the folks we serve. 50% of Lake County is on Medi-Cal. 25% of Lake County gets CalFresh. That's bringing $3 million monthly into the local economy. It is between $1.45 and $1.75, depending on which study you look at, that CalFresh creates economic activity in Lake County. For every dollar in CalFresh, $1.45 economic activity occurs. You know, you purchase your food at the local grocery store, the local grocer pays their rent, and so on. It brings funding into our county. Same thing for all the funding in these programs. 892 families receive CalWorks. That's $900,000 a month coming into our community. 2,716 people receive IHSS benefits. That is a program that allows individuals who would otherwise be in long-term care to stay in their homes and receive assistance to remain in their homes. It is a cost savings overall because long-term care is far more costly than IHSS services. We are paying $6 million monthly to the providers of those services. That is a larger payroll than must have. 112 reports of child abuse or neglect are received by Child Welfare monthly. 49 reports of elderly or disabled abuse are received monthly by my Adult Protective Services staff. Our HUD Section 8 housing voucher program currently assists 189 families and issues $145,000 approximately per month. And through our Area Agency on Aging, approximately 70,895 meals are served in partnership with senior centers. So there is a lot at stake, and even more that our partners provide in services to the community, to the same populations we serve. What has been enacted in terms of changes? These are not financial or layoff. These are just changes in how things might operate. So the tariffs are likely potentially to create an economic depression. If an economic depression does occur, the only funding my department has to backfill for any federal funding cuts is realignment. And realignment would decrease in an economic depression. That is because realignment is based on taxes, especially vehicle licensing fees. And when vehicles aren't selling, there's no money coming into realignment for us. So that is certainly on our radar as an additional consideration in what we can do to make up for any federal cuts. Social Security did implement a couple changes that will impact particularly the people that the Area Agency on Aging serves, as well as my Adult Services Division. They are requiring identity proofing for individuals to start or change direct deposit effective March 31st. I don't hate that it helps to prevent identity theft or theft of benefits, but it does create a barrier for individuals who are unable to leave their home. The first thing that you do to try and prove your identity is by phone or online. Access to technology or ability to use technology can be a barrier for this population. So the requirement then would be to come into the office to verify your identity, which may be a burden. And in a worst case scenario, please make a referral to my adult services, adult protective services folks for neglect. The individual can also refer themselves, and then my social workers will go out and help them get their direct deposit ironed out with Social Security. So at least there's that resource, and I'm sure senior centers and others would be willing to jump in. Another very concerning thing is that 100% of overpayments in Social Security will be collected starting March 27th. Previously, only 10% of your future monthly Social Security payments were taken back if you had an overpayment, still allowing you to pay your bills, continue to be housed. Now, if there is a overpayment in Social Security, they're going to recoup 100% until it's paid back. This is going to leave folks on Social Security with no money for however many months it takes to repay that overpayment. That is concerning. We will certainly, or at least I think we will see a increased demand for services in my department, and I think we will see an increase in housing instability and even potentially homelessness at a time where potentially we are seeing less resources to address these things. So these are actual enacted changes. They are in place. The tariffs are in place. I'm sure you've seen it in the news. There's so much flying around. There was a rumor going around that the administration had put a 90-day pause. That is not true. It was a false account, if you had seen any news regarding that. All right, here is what is actually happening again in the realm of cuts and layoffs. So Health and Human Services at the federal level, Robert F. Kennedy is over this branch. Depending on which reports you trust, because data is hazy, 25 to 38% of staffing is gone. That's 20,000 or more federal employees who assisted in operating this branch of the government. Funding through HHS supports many of our partners, supports in part what my agency does, as well as public health and behavioral health. What is the potential impact of such mass layoffs? Even though funding is not cut, there will most likely be funding delays because the people who handle issuing that funding are no longer there, perhaps, and there's certainly going to be program disruptions. It'll be harder to get guidance, get waivers around operations. So I know Robert F. Kennedy said he was going to potentially reinstate some of those employees, 10% of those employees who had been fired. So far, that has not happened. So this is not under HHS, but the Administration for Community Living has been entirely eliminated. It no longer exists. We have been told, or at least the news has been told, that the plans are for the ACL to be absorbed by Health and Human Services, the remaining staff there. No plan has been released as to how that might really look or happen. So it's kind of unclear what the impact is. I would say it's likely along the same lines as the elimination of staffing at HHS. It'll be difficult to pull down funding, and currently, because there is no staff, perhaps impossible, definitely impossible, until it is absorbed by HHS. So what did the ACL do? This is directly a concern for our area agency on aging and our senior centers. The ACL provides a myriad of supports to older adults and people with disabilities by ensuring they can live where they choose, participate fully in their communities, and access necessary services. So, not great news. So Justice and Aging did release a statement. They are a group that partners with CDA and advocates for these individuals. If access to the programs that ACL oversees is hindered, older adults and people with disabilities will lose the ability to choose where and how they want to live and fully participate in their communities. Many will be forced into institutions where they need help with activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, eating, Families who are struggling to care for loved ones will now have to turn will have nowhere to turn for the training, respite, and support they need. Older adults will lose access to adult day programs where they can receive meals, socialize with others, and access basic preventative care. Availability of transportation services to senior centers and doctor's appointments will end. When an older adult experiences financial exploitation or abuse, the free legal services they rely on will not be available. So if you want to pause here and take comment from senior centers, is that what, would you like me to go on or so? Okay.
Senior centers, yeah, that'd be
Okay.
good. If there's anyone here from a senior center.
Would anyone come on, if you'd like to make comment, come on up.
Good morning. My name's Amanda Gonzalez. I am a local realtor. I'm also the executive director of the Lucerne Alpine Senior Center. I'm here to convey that the senior center isn't just a place for our elders to go, but for a lot of seniors, it's a lifeline. And we provide very substantial things like home-cooked meals that are overseen by a nutritionalist, as well as a safe and happy environment to socialize and improve cognitive health. Our facility is a vital place for our elders' physical and mental wellness. Additionally, funding-wise, every dollar contributed to the senior center, if we want to think about it like that, yields a return on its investment when we help sustain our elders and their health through nutrition and their cognitive improvement through socialization and activities. They're better able to remain independent and contribute to our local economy, as they make up over a quarter of Lake County's economy. It's pretty impactful to consider keeping that and sustaining that impact on our economy. I personally believe, being involved in this, it would be detrimental to our community to lose any sort of funding for the seniors and the people who frequent the center. It's a source of livelihood for a lot of people who would otherwise be housebound or depressed if they didn't have a community to live for and be involved in. Our funds are minimal as it is, but the impact that we have on the human life that is around us and here is really tremendous. So, if it does come down to budget cuts and things, I think that it is an important factor to consider finding another way to fund these facilities and programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. My name is Lisa Morrow. I'm the Executive Director for Lake Family Resource Center. And in addition to all of the programs that we offer, we also administrate the Lakeport Senior Center. Sorry, wrong speech. So I would like to thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. I want to bring to your attention, well, you've already got that, sorry about that, the potential closure of the administration for community living. The ACL is a federal agency that supports community living and independence for older adults and people with disabilities. It also oversees, and this is where my concern is, the Older American Act funding, which makes it possible for senior centers like ours to provide vital services. If the ACL is shuttered or significantly defunded, the local consequences could be immediate and severe. Our seniors come to the Lakeport Senior Center to have a meal, catch up with friends, play bingo, line dance, and participate in Tai Chi, among other things. The center is quite literally a center for their lives. Severe cuts would greatly affect them. However, the biggest concern lies with our most at-risk and vulnerable clients, our Meals on Wheels clients. Our biggest priority must be that the Older Americans Act stays intact and that there are no disruptions to the administration of or flow of funding. We, as North Shore Meals on Wheels providers, are already operating on extremely thin margins. 1 in 3 programs have a wait list for services. Thank goodness we have been able to serve all clients who are eligible in our area so far. We cannot sustain it without receiving expected office OAA reimbursements on time and in full. Without the support, our most vulnerable residents could face increased isolation, you've heard this before, malnutrition, preventable hospitalizations. And family caregivers, already doing so much, would carry even more of the burden, especially with the loss of respite programs and support services. On top of that, we would lose the planning and coordination provided through the Area Agency on Aging, the structure that ensures our community resources are targeted, effective, and equitable. Lake County has one of the highest percentages of seniors in California. The need for these services is growing, not shrinking. We simply cannot afford to lose the systems that support our aging population. I respectfully ask this board to stay informed on this issue and to continue formal advocacy through a letter to our congressional delegation, a local resolution, or participation in broader statewide efforts. Your leadership can help ensure our seniors continue to live with the dignity and independence they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when was the closure?
It happened at the end of March. Sorry. It happened at the end of March. There were quite a few closures between like the 27th and the end of March, somewhere in there. I can find your exact date if you want to know.
Okay, I've just,
Dina, do you have any comments? She is over our Area Agency on Aging.
There may also be some senior centers on Zoom. I'm not sure if they want to speak. It's probably Jill Rex Road from the Fort Bragg Senior Center.
I'm on from Coastal Seniors.
Oh, Coastal. Okay, it's Rebecca.
Do you want her to speak?
Yeah, Rebecca, go ahead and speak.
Okay, hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rebecca Stewart, and I'm speaking on behalf of Coastal Seniors, which serves Point Arena and the surrounding communities in Mendocino. It's very isolated, rugged territory. We serve over 1,000 meals a month, so this would make it, if there were any cuts or reduced funding, it would make it nearly impossible to continue for wellness checks for isolated seniors, checks that often detect falls, illness, or emotional distress. Staff hours, community programs are being scaled back, threatening everything from transportation to social connection. The weight of this crisis is, and just the idea of funding being cut even more, is just really weighing on our seniors. They're very concerned. They reach out constantly. Our little local newspaper is quite aware of how everyone is feeling. I think what is happening now is more than a fiscal issue. It's a public health concern and a community emergency, especially for us. Right now, in our little town of Point Arena, which is just over 400 people, we're doing a food bank as I speak, and we've already served over 300 individuals. So that number's staggering. It just shows how deep the need runs in our rural coastal communities. I just hope that everyone understands and tries to prioritize and advocate for senior-centered funding. Not just to maintain basic support, but to protect the dignity, health, and the lives of our elders. Thanks.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Yes, and just before you go, Supervisor Pyska, the AAA is the board that we're on as well, and that we work with, and this group is part of that AAA. We're yes,
Right. The Area Agency on Aging is for both Lake and Mendocino
Yes.
counties.
And so a lot of the different senior centers like Lucerne, I'm glad you came and spoke, ma'am, because they had really just got to the point of having the capability to start serving meals in getting that funding, and now with this in mind, and they've done a lot of work to have their center just upgraded and all of those different things, and now this is the next challenge. But just wanted to highlight that, and Supervisor Pyska, sorry about that.
no, I was going to say the same thing. The AAA is both Lake and Mendocino County, so although that story is from Mendocino County, it does tell the story of our senior centers too. And the Older Americans Act was left out of the December resolution, but then put back in the March resolution.
Correct.
But then now is
At risk once again.
at risk once again. So although there is technically funding through September with this resolution, it is still very unclear.
If the budget is passed in May, that will potentially change the fact that at this point in time, there's funding through September. Whatever rolls down in the budget, and I'm presuming it'll pass in May. That's what people are predicting. Whatever happens there will immediately potentially impact our operations. I believe we have one more senior center
ahead.
online.
Yes, go ahead and state your name and then go ahead and speak.
This is Jill Rexroad. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I'm Jill Rexroad. I'm the Executive Director for the Red Coast Senior Center. I've been the director here since 2018, and I've been through a lot of changes and challenges since being here with COVID and so on. I'm looking at this as another challenge. I'm trying to be optimistic that the budget will pass and include the OAA. People on the coast are very panicky about the situation. There were rumors that we were going to close our doors in March and all kinds of things. So I've been trying to reassure our community that we will stay open. And I'm really hoping that you continue to advocate for the OAA to be passed, which I know that you will, because it affects so many people. I want to say that we serve over 55,000 meals a year between our Meals on Wheels program and our congregate dining. So that is almost 5,000 meals a month. That's a lot of food going out our door. We have a really small staff, and we, as far as I'm concerned, we are rocking it every day, providing good services to our community. And I really hope that the funding can continue. We have a board of directors who are very active in trying to find alternative funding sources in the event that the OAA isn't passed. So we're not just sitting here on our hands, hoping. We are trying to actively seek other funding as well in the event of an emergency.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, did you have something?
I had a question before she finishes. A question before we close out of this presentation, if we're ready for that.
Yeah.
You mentioned the situation with the identity verification on Social Security.
Yeah.
And we have folks that can't leave their home. You'd mentioned, and have them give you a call, but I just want to confirm, do we have the ability, either through your department or the senior centers, to help transport or to help facilitate those things?
My staff would attempt to help them through online means first,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
There you go.
My staff would attempt to help them navigate the online identity verification process first, but if that was not successful, we can transport them.
Okay, thank you.
I know when I tried to do it for IRS, I had a hard time making it recognize me.
And then just to confirm, if on the money for the Meals on Wheels, so if I know it's come back in and gone out, so if we do end up losing it, that we're looking at the range of $1 million. I believe that was the number before.
Yes, we are funded 60% federally and 40% via state for our programs, and some of the programs are entirely federally funded, so only the meals program and a small portion of them would still continue to be funded if all federal funding is cut.
Okay.
I believe we already issued the state funding that we could use to backfill to
Yeah,
the senior
we need
centers,
the-
or we're in the process.
Those contracts will be executed at the April 24th governing board meeting.
Right.
That's the state funding.
So yeah, there was alternate state funding that we had initially planned to use to backfill when we weren't sure if the funding would be restored in the continuing resolution in March. Since it was restored, we have now moved forward with passing that funding directly onto senior centers to use more flexibly. They can choose how to supplement their programs with it, as opposed to just putting it towards the meals programs. And it sounds like those will be executed in April.
Wasn't that funding a little bit more limited than I'm trying to remember the conversation that we had.
Yes, the funding that will be approved in April at the April Governing Board meeting is only for meals. It's just the meal funding.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was more flexible.
There is a small portion, but we have not executed contracts for that yet.
Okay.
Supervisor Owen was next, yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. You had mentioned about the 100% recouping of overpayments. So are you suspecting, you made it, at least I wanted to be clear. Are you thinking that there's been a lot of overpayments in the county then, it sounded like?
So, I mean, we serve people who receive Social Security benefits. Just to be clear, social services is not Social Security, just because sometimes we get their calls. In our caseloads, I have seen a handful of overpayments. It's not frequent, but they do exist. As a caseworker, I mean, I used to be a caseworker, and I ran across maybe 5 in the...
So it wouldn't be a big detriment?
It would not be a large number of people, I would suppose, but for the number, the individual impacted, it would be a huge impact.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that was the ACL update. It is not the end of my updates, I'm sorry to say. Are we ready?
Just real quick, I'm going to open it up for the public just for this item in case there's anyone that has a question so we can move on. Anyone on Zoom? All right, we'll bring it back.
Okay, so the next one is the administration for children and families, which I think a large portion of the rest of our partners may be here for. I will also end on the food bank cuts. So the administration for children and families is a branch under Health and Human Services. Again, 25 to 38% of staffing gone. Potential impacts, funding delays, program disruptions. We have a chart here that explains exactly how ACF funding budget breaks down. So TANF, which locally is CalWorks, as well as Tribal TANF, 24% of that funding is ACF. 17% of ACF's funding they pass out as Head Start, 16% is foster care, 17% is child care, 6% is child support, 6% is LIHEAP, and I'll touch on what all these programs do in just a minute. 3% is a mash of other programs. 9 is refugee and entrant assistance, and that is for legal refugees and entrants. We're not talking about illegal immigrants. 2% is for the Social Security block grant, and 1% is promoting safe and stable families, which is a CDS program. So what is TANF? As I mentioned, it is our CalWorks program, as well as a tribal TANF overseen by tribes. It is a time-limited program that helps low-income families with minor children find employment and become self-sufficient. My fiscal director will have more to add to this after I end my comments. Head Start is federally funded. It promotes school readiness for infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and low-income families. It provides free learning and development services to children ages birth to 5, focused on learning, health, and family well-being. The program actively engages parents, recognizing their participation as key to child outcomes. NCO, East Center, and Lake Family Resource Center currently oversee Head Start programs here in Lake County. Foster care provides a safe and stable place for abused and neglected children to live. Social Services oversees foster care placements. It is a large portion of the funding we pass on. I want to say it's more than double our staffing costs is what we put towards foster care payments. Child care. Subsidized childcare is funded also through ACF. NCO oversees that program here in Lake County, including overseeing our CalWorks Stage 1 childcare via a contract with our office. Child support establishes paternal responsibility and distributes court-ordered child support. That connects with our office in that Medi-Cal and CalWorks both have requirements for us to attempt to identify our parents' responsibilities when there is an absent parent and the family is receiving benefits. LIHEAP is low-income utility assistance program. It is operated by North Coast Energy Solutions, and all federal employees, which were only 11 folks, were eliminated from the branch that oversees LIHEAP. So that's another situation where it's not just a percentage of the staff, it's everybody who oversaw that program is gone. So we're not sure what's going to happen there. The Social Services Block Grant funds both adult protective services and child welfare services. Promoting Safe and Stable Families is a program that provides formula grants each year to states, territories, and tribes. So this may impact our tribes as well with regard to child abuse and neglect. The purpose of this program is to prevent child maltreatment and the unnecessary separation of children from families, improve the quality of care and services to children and their families, and ensure permanency for children. Promoting adoption, placement, back reuniting with them with their parents, or providing other permanent living arrangements. Okay, so before I jump into partner comments, do you have more on the funding you want to share with us, Kelly?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
How about now? Okay. My comments are really just based on the Administration for Children and Families and what that truly means to social services. The way I see it is a cut in staffing is effectively a cut to funding. If reimbursements are delayed, that means for social services, we're using our realignment funding to try to keep these programs at current levels. The more cuts there are to all of these programs, and there's several, as Rachel just listed, the harder it will be to stretch our realignment funding in a time when sales tax revenue will be low, vehicle licensing fees will decrease, so our realignment will definitely be lower. And trying to equitably keep these programs going at a level that meets the need is going to become very difficult. And I think some of the program names that might be familiar to people, the Family First Prevention Services Act through Child Welfare, the Emergency Child Care Bridge Program for foster children through Child Welfare, the Independent Living Program through Child Welfare, the CalWorks program, which is also TANF. Also, we have the Social Services Block Grant, which funds many of our programs for child welfare, and the Approved Relative Caregiver funding, which is also through the ACF, will be impacted. So the biggest hit will definitely be to our children. And I don't want to sound all gloom and doom, but that is the reality of laying off the staff like we're seeing.
Thank you, Kelly. Partners? Ready to invite the partners?
Yes, is there, if there's anyone in the yes, we have some folks in chambers, and then we'll go to the Zoom.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Dan McIntyre. I'm the Executive Director for North Coast Opportunities. And while I don't think there's a direct attack on Head Start, there is definitely an attack on the division that supports Head Start, which indirectly then threatens the programs. And a good example for us is with the advent of TK in the state of California, there's been a need for more space on local campuses. So we've been asked to leave Upper Lakes campus and do a new development for Head Start in Upper Lake. However, now with the cut at the San Francisco office, the delays in those 1303 applications that we need for the funding could impact our ability to relocate that campus, which then leads to a cascading effect of providing services in the county. And that's no fault to anybody locally. That's just how the process works out. Another thing that happens for us is we're at the end of our 5-year contract with for a new baseline adjustment with with Health and Human Services for Head Start that we just submitted March 31st, and they cut the offices on April 1st. So we're not really sure where that's at, but our funding ends in June 30th. So that will be another major barrier that we have to work across should we not get that renewed in time. There's limited funding for that moving forward. So at NCO, while we do that, we also mentioned we do the child care for the CalWorks side. We also do the child care for the state side. The issues that convolute for us is that as Medicare gets cut at the federal level, that's going to directly involve how well the state funded health state-funded childcare is going to be affected. So these impacts affect NCO as an organization greatly because both Head Start and childcare make up a large portion of our fiscal budget as well as of our administrative budget, which then affects every other program. So while Head Start may not be directly attacked, like from a fiscal standpoint, because I think it will be funded, the ability for us to continue our operations and go through all the processes to do new sites, get the funding to start that process for new sites is going to be delayed to a point where we can't move in the time frame that we have set out by the end of 2026. So there's a direct impact that we will probably come back and ask for some direct support from the supervisors to help us move those processes forward as speedily as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the chamber? Okay, there we go.
I'm back. Did you guys miss me? So again, my name is Lisa Morrow. I'm the Executive Director for Lake Family Resource Center. And among all of the things that we do, Early Head Start is also one of our programs that will be affected. In addition to, so on behalf of myself, our Board of Directors, which in addition to Mr. Torres, Ms. Angela, Quay, our Mayor Keene also serves on our board, and I appreciate the support here today. I won't repeat a lot of the things that I was going to say that people have, but I want to say the Office of Head Start has informed us that support will continue through their online systems and other channels, but the National Head Start Association has raised serious concerns about the impact of these closures on service quality and oversight. Our most pressing concern, much like with Dan, is securing timely approval of our grant reapplication before our program ends on April 30th. A delay could lead to a service gap. That is 74 children in our community who will be impacted immediately May 1st if our funding is delayed for any reason. And we are looking at possible employee furloughs, which are 22 individuals within our organization. This isn't just an administrative issue, it directly affects the family and children that we serve. In addition, and as Dan was pointing out, we will continue to advance our 1303 application. As you know, we are looking to purchase and build a new Early Head Start Center because our current location is located in the Vista Point Shopping Center, which is scheduled to be demolished July 1st. But with the loss of the Region 9 staff who knew our project and its history, this adds another layer of complexity to an already demanding process. Without their institutional knowledge, we expect to face delays and the need for additional justifications. Despite these challenges, we remain committed to maintaining consistent, high-quality services. We are working hard to adapt, seek out alternative support, and secure funding necessary to move forward. Our families depend on us, all of us in this community. And in addition to those, and I'll have to say today was my first heads up on the CalWORKs funding. Lake Family Resource Center also has 3 separate programs that receive CalWORK funding, and that is our differential response, our child abuse prevention, intervention, and treatment programs, as well as our DV welfare to work programs that could be severely impacted. I don't have any stats on that off the top of my head. However, it's looking grim, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you for your time.
But stats are there,
They are
right?
there.
And
They're
and they
bad,
can
yes.
and they can be requested by folks that are at a higher level making these cuts that can determine that it's working, right? So I just wanted to add that. Thank you for that.
Appreciate that.
Samantha Bond, I'm the Executive Director for First 5 Lake, and I don't hold a Head Start program, but I do support a lot of our childcare programs here in the community through a lot of the work that we do. And I just want to elevate some of the work that we're going to be doing tomorrow because all First Fives will be at the state capitol tomorrow. And so some of those conversations will be around the fact that a third of the California state budget is impacted by the federal government's budget. And so not only does this $10 billion cut, potential cut to HHS have, it directly impacts things like Rachel was saying around Medicare, Medi-Cal, And a lot of the programs that we serve, including our new Path Cited, which a lot of First Fives across the state have what's called an IGT grant, which is it's federally given, and we have to have a match program. And so a lot of the Path Cited stuff here in the state is a match. We are also asking our state capitalists around providing a 0 to 5 continuous eligibility or enrollment process so that none of our 0 to 5ers actually get dropped off of the Medi-Cal program while they're in that critical age range, which we see a lot of them dropping off, and we're going to see a lot more dropping off with immigration scares as well as these cuts to Medi-Cal funding at the federal level. So there's a lot of direct impact that will come down, as Rachel and her team have stated here today, and First Fives are doing our best to try to advocate for what we can here locally, but also at the state level. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Angela Cuellar Marroquin. I'm the Child Care Planning Council Director, as well as the Quality Counts Program for the Lake County Office of Education. Here in support, also sit on the board for LFRC. I'm also a community participant in the Parent Policy Council for the Migrant Head Start Program for eCenter. And just the detriment of what can happen in our community, and the needs of childcare already are scarce. And with TK Universal Preschool coming into play, we are seeing more and more programs. Our own Lake County Office of Ed State preschools are losing 3 of their sites as well in Canocta Unified School District. And so we're moving on to seeing even more impacts of trying to support all these programs. Although we're not directly funded through the federal government for like Head Start, our state preschools are also, we're going to start seeing those cuts, and locations are not available. So we're struggling really hard right now to continue to provide these services. But as we start seeing, cuts to like the CalWorks programs that help support families going to work, if you can't afford childcare, you're going to stay home, you can't work. So it's just a big snowball effect. Personally, if it wasn't for programs like that, programs to go to school, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now, because I was able to go to school because I had subsidized care, like the NCO program that helps support those child care programs, so parents can get a head start in even just providing themselves with a career, a job. It's going to be very detrimental. So having support from our local government, from all of our agencies that are here banded together to support the children of Lake County. We support the 0 to 12 range, so 0 to school age is really important. So please keep supporting us as we will continue to keep doing our part as much as we can at our level as we stand here today. So thank you so much for your time. Rachel.
Good morning. My name is Yvonne Ford, and I'm with Scotts Valley Tribal TANF Program. I'm the executive director.
If you can come closer to the microphone, please.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm the executive director for Scotts Valley Tribal TANF Program. And we've already seen some of the impacts at our agency because they cut all our technical support. So we lost our team at Region 9 at the federal level, which at that time, we were in the middle of amendments, like I heard a previous colleague say, and that pushes back, a lot of amendments that we were trying to change for our program and operations. We also had to lay off staff because we have to continue to have a sustainable program. And so these timely approvals were delayed. They're up in limbo. We don't know what's going on. And that's been since January. So pretty much to, ask the Board of Supervisors for your guys' support, because this program, services 2 tribes, 2 local tribes. We provide cash aid, supportive services to eligible Native American families, and we help promote self-sufficiency. And we provide employment training. We provide childcare, so we pay for those services. So yeah, huge huge program disruption. So we just are here today to ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the chambers? I know there's some on Zoom, so.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning. So I am the executive director of North Coast Energy Services, and we are the LIHEAP provider for 6 California counties. We have been providing LIHEAP services since 1983 as an independent entity. In 2024, our program served 1,814 households in Lake County with 1.9 million in services, and 93% of our funding goes to assist households containing elderly, disabled, and children under 5. Our programs provide utility assistance, weatherization, emergency heating and cooling, and severe weather, energy, and transportation services, which have been enacted several times for assistance with fires in Lake County. Without LIHEAP funding, my agency will close its doors, laying off 39 employees, 8 of which reside in Lake County. So we're asking that you support continued LIHEAP services. Currently, all 10 LIHEAP federal positions have been discontinued.
And your name for the record, ma'am?
Sandra Kleisner.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for that comment. It's very important. I know that with the PG&E and all of the other, I guess you could say different problems that we deal with, this is a very important one as well when it comes to low-income seniors, families. So thank you for that. Anyone else on Zoom? All right. Any questions from the board just to follow up before? I think you were going to move on to another.
I have more, sadly. I wish I didn't. Yeah, I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, and I'll add to that. Sorry about that. So last week when there was, I think it was Tuesday after the board meeting, I went home, and my wife had been reading some of this stuff and told me, are you doing anything? Are you calling anybody? And I was like, no, I just got back. I'm tired. You better call somebody. So I did. And I reached out to our elected officials, and Congressman Thompson put me in touch with some staff about a lot of this. And what Director Yvonne had just mentioned was exactly accurate. The staff, the TA assistants, people are updating their plans. If they need help with some of their anything, their budgets, that's what these folks are in place for, to conduct that. And also, so now if there's an application that needs to be turned in, it's just a lot of confusion. And it could be potentially, the worst case scenario, sent in and just denied, and then the program's left undone. There also was another explanation of there was an initiative put in place to do a pilot program in regards to work participation, and that has been rescinded. And it's, the way it was explained is it's more of a authorship type of thing rather than anything else. With these programs intact, there's a lot of talk about, do they work? Do they not work? Well, when you want a lot of your participants or your clients to find a way to self-sufficiency, and that's the point. And so when you do these pilot programs, this helps to get them to, I guess, put on your bootstraps. So, and there's a lot of people doing it, and it's because of this different, adjustments and pivots that are needed. And so that's one thing that's going to be suffering as well. So workforce, CalWorks, it's just, yeah. So that was part of that discussion that we had as well. And so if there's any information, like I forwarded some of the updates that we're getting from different, not only just agencies, but different, nonprofits or whoever they're suffering from this as well. So I'll just end there. But that's that. I wanted to add that. I had that discussion.
Thank you. I know the entire board is very supportive, and I appreciate that. Okay, on with the doom and gloom. So Health and Human Services also did announce actual financial cuts. None have hit my department yet. They are in behavioral health and public health funding. It is estimated statewide, $120 billion in behavioral health services, $846 million in public health funding. I'm not going to jump deeper into those. I feel really it's more the realm of those department heads to provide some analysis, just making sure it's on radar, because we do cross-program referrals all the time. We serve the same population, so they do touch social services. A temporary restraining order was granted yesterday to pause those funding cuts, so it's currently in the litigation process. HUD, you may have seen in the news, they're cutting the vouchers. They're talking about emergency housing vouchers. None of the other vouchers are currently at risk of being entirely cut. These emergency housing vouchers were intended to specifically address housing homelessness and people at risk of homelessness. We only currently have 9 issued in Lake County, and the program itself has ended. So if previously, so if you have a voucher, you're on the program. We just could not issue new vouchers. What is happening that is new here is that funding was supposed to last through 2030, and it has been announced that it will only last through 2026. So the ideal would be to transfer these folks into some other housing assistance programs so they would not be at risk of homelessness, but it just kind of depends on what is left to move them into in this landscape. Other things happening at the HUD level are Dodge has proposed to move all 3 regional offices in California to 1 office in Los Angeles. Our regional office assisting us is in San Francisco, and the merge has not yet happened. I am talking with the Regional Housing Authority, who our housing authority hopes to, is planning on consolidating with. And we're looking at maybe moving up our timeline to July if we can make it happen, just so that we don't have to attempt to make the transition with only 1 HUD office. We can continue to use our TA assistants in San Francisco during the transition. More to come on that. That one will come before your board probably next week. Other things happening in HUD, we do anticipate a reduction in our administrative reimbursement rate as well as the voucher reimbursement rate. No official word as to what those percentages are quite yet, although there has been some rough analysis. It'll be 89% for admin and 87% for the vouchers. Other item here, Library Services Technology Act grant was revoked. The goodish news is that it will not impact our libraries. Did check with Christopher Veach. He already drew down funding and purchased technology for our libraries. Not great that it's going away. But it will not impact our libraries, which is good. We do, at social services, often refer the people we serve to the libraries to make access of the technology that is available there.
So real quick, just like you said, he drew down some funding, right?
Yeah.
And so like with a lot of programs, is it possible to draw down? Sometimes it's been allocated. Mm-hmm. And so if you draw down, I know in some instances folks have drawn down and then, later on down the line, they give it back or whatever the case may be. In situations like this with so much confusion, are there penalties from doing that, or maybe you can help?
Well, I will say for social services, all of the funding I have mentioned here is handed to us by CDSS. So CDSS is who is drawing down the funds and then distributing it to counties. CDSS has been drawing down as much as they can from what I have seen recently because of what you mentioned, but often it depends on the program. For instance, for CalFresh, it's month by month, and so you can only draw down the next month. For CalWorks, you can draw down quarterly. So for CalWorks, they can draw down 3 months at a time. So that's why when we have a government shutdown and no more funding is coming in, CalFresh can go for about a month and CalWorks can go for about 3 months most of the time before we're hit with there's no more funding to make this happen. So it varies program by program. It may be different for partners. I believe the tribes draw down federal funding directly, and they would have to speak to that Kelly may have more to add. She's our money lady.
For federal funding in particular with HUD, you cannot draw down more than you need. It's a pass-through only, so you're not allowed to have really any reserves that are meaningful. And that's true, I think, of most federal programs.
Thank you for that. Did you want to elaborate on the tribal TANF aspect, or it was summed up? Okay.
It was summed up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ma'am, yes, please come forward.
I had to sit in the back. Just so this board's aware, the state has requested a significant amount of funding to draw down federally, and because of these cuts and these proposed changes, there is a significant amount of money that has not been received from the state level. I don't have those exact numbers, and this is not just CDSS, but also CDPH, so California Department of Public Health.
Right.
They all come from HHS at the federal level. And so we're looking at a large portion of funding at the state that hasn't been received federally because of this.
Thank you.
Also CDA, the California Department of Aging, they passed the funding on to us for the Area Agency on Aging.
So we draw down the previous month, so this is April, we'll be getting reimbursed for March. So we're a month behind. So we won't know if we don't have funding until we've already spent it.
Okay. Right, and so I wanted to make sure that we talked about that, because there's thoughts that we could draw down, there's thoughts we can't. Then there's also the worry that with the new overhead site committee looking into these things, what kind of penalties could happen
Clawbacks.
if
Yeah,
I
they
just
could be
decide I'm on this group and I'm like, wait, you know what, you drew down, so I'm gonna affect your funding from your forward. We don't know, so that's why I just wanted to make sure that we had the dialogue.
Yep.
If there's any to add to that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, no one wants to know this, but disaster and fire related, there is, in my opinion, there will be impact, and we got a lady back there who might have more comments, Leah from. But what I have seen and I'm concerned about is that the FEMA Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant has been cut. NOAA has had staff layoffs. That's a federal level entity that provides a lot of weather and predictions that can help both predict the chance of fires or other weather-related disasters. And while they are still operating, perhaps those reports will be less accurate or less frequent. U.S. wildland firefighting workforce has seen layoffs and hiring freezes, and also the U.S. Forestry Service, who does forest management, like clearing out brush and the things that can catch fire, have also seen layoffs. That connects to social services, and that we provide sheltering in the event of a disaster evacuation. So it is certainly on my radar that we may see a busier fire season, I'm very sorry to say.
Rachel, I just want to add something about that. So I was at a CSAC regional meeting, and we were talking about disaster support, and when there's an event which leads to a declaration, which leads to mobilizing a lot of the resources that we typically do. The Secretary Johnson from the state HHS, I asked her what happens when there's not the federal support, when we go to draw on those federal programs, and does the state have the ability to backfill? Because that's the question we're asking. Every single department is saying, well, okay, is the state going to be able to cover this? And the answer is no.
Right.
And she just said to me, we will have to reprioritize. And so that's what it looks like across the board. And if we have to, if we have another event like that, we just don't know that we're going to be able to serve the people in the same way that we have in the past.
And for sheltering, we rely heavily on Red Cross and are grateful for their partnership, and probably more than ever will need it. All right, do we want to see if anyone has comments, Danny? No, okay, she passes. All right, so the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was proposed to be eliminated, but there is a temporary court order granted March 28th to pause that Why am I concerned about this? They oversee financial institutions, and there is the potential for financial abuse of elderly and disabled individuals if this protection is no longer in place. I'm sure the impact is much more far-reaching, but that's how it intersects with social services. Let's see. Okay, and here is our last agenda item, which is technically 6.8.
We combined, just so everyone knows, I know I read it earlier, but we combined 6.7 and 6.8. Right, Lloyd, is that accurate?
Yes, that's just so for more clarification, 6.8 would be the 10:15 a.m. item, consideration of federal update food bank funding for discussion.
Yeah, right, thank you.
Thank you. And I don't have anything new that I didn't provide during public comment last week. This is just an opportunity to accept more comment from our partners as well as your board. So to recap, the USDA has cut $500 million in funding from food banks for the temporary emergency food assistance program. Our local provider of these benefits is the Gleaners. They do have other sources for the food bank. Food banks are open. All of the food banks are open. But thanks to this loss in funding, I am anticipating we may see less of a variety and perhaps less food altogether available. And our partners can speak more to that, I think. Come on up.
Hello, I am one of the volunteers for the Clear Lake Gleaners, and I also serve as their vice president. In reading the news, I have been keeping up on it. I did make a phone call to the Department of Social Services yesterday. We talked to not only the person that we deal with, but even her boss this morning. Right now, we have no budget cuts rolling down to us. We have already ordered our stuff. Now, there is this word called currently. We're not receiving any. I want us to be very aware of that. Just because it's not there today doesn't mean it will not be there tomorrow. And our concern is our public involvement, our community involvement with the people that we serve. We have graduated now to 9 different distribution centers completely around the lake. We have approximately about 160 volunteers. Our whole operation is strictly volunteer. We have community members from all of your districts that show up twice a month. We give out food. Our numbers have been growing. Well, first they started growing with COVID. Then the holidays came. But now I'm seeing that our numbers are higher than the holidays, so which is speaking to something of food insecurities for our community. We are serving right now, our numbers for individuals is about 7,800, a little bit more per month. We are serving for the community itself, besides our distributions. We are giving, we work with Clear Lake High School weekly. We give them food, because the counselors there have identified students who are at risk. We are utilizing and servicing Hance Continuation School. Family Resource Center, where anytime they call, we're there. And then we've got the Lake County Behavioral Department has come to us recently, so we're giving them out a dozen or more packages each month or more, well, actually twice a month. Dialysis, we have doctor's offices who are saying, hey, I've got elderly patients. So what we're seeing really is the elderly and children are at risk if something is to happen. The way we're keeping our eye on it, one of the ways that, we're looking at different ways that we can keep maneuvering on, and where we're giving, let's say, 55 pounds of food or 11 items in a bag, we may have to reduce that down. We are very grateful to our partners of in the area as far as grocery stores. Here's the thing with them though. Everything that we retrieve from them on 6 days a week has a date life on it. It is not something, first of all, they don't give us enough. I mean, we need 2,200 of one item to feed all of our centers. We don't get that from our daily pickup. And sometimes, I mean, it serves us because not only do we have the twice-a-month giveaways at the 9 distribution sites, but in Findlay, we give away 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have people at that door on a regular basis. Some repeat offenders, but not very many. You know, I mean, they're just hungry and they need food. So we are so grateful for Safeway, Bruno's, and Grocery Outlet. And I don't want to forget Papa's Murphy's Pizza, because they do bring us some pizzas or whatever. And they go right out to the client. So we are able to serve them and pile them up with fresh fruit and fresh vegetables that Safeway sells in their little packages. We're so grateful for them. But keep in mind, we do not have a budget like our partner Redwood Empire. We cannot send envelopes for donations out and marketing materials. And I come from the marketing area in my past life, and we still struggling to do that. We don't have funds. When we get funds, it goes to one thing. It goes to the food, because that's what we're all about. So, and when money, I've spoken recently to about a half a dozen service clubs, and I'm finding out that because of Redwood Empire, and they are wonderful at what they do, and they are wonderful getting that word out there, when our community is donating to them, that goes into their big coffers for Sonoma, Del Norte, Mendocino, Napa. It goes into that. Not every dime of that comes back, because they are not the food bank for Lake County. Gleaners is the only food bank recognized as Lake County, and we are the only ones that can provide the TFAP food. So yes, we are keeping the eye on the TFAP, because we must. I think that's it. And I appreciate the board's support in anything here. And if any of you can get the word out that Clear Lake Gleaners, if they donate to us, it stays in Lake County. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. And your name again? Just
Leslie Firth.
Okay, thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
So a couple of things. The Gleaners is an amazing organization. And the fact that you've been doing it with mostly volunteers for so long is just incredible. So thank you all. I've been working with Loretta over the last couple weeks to try and find a partner so that you can receive donations much more easily. Right now, folks send food and donations to your physical address. But what we as a community need to do is support you in a way that you can have recurring donations set up, so that you can have online donations. So we're working on something.
Thank you for that.
Yes, of course. This is incredibly important. And then I know that you also do receive support from Redwood Empire.
We do.
And then I know that Redwood Empire has been having some difficulties too.
Yes, Redwood Empire Food Bank is the CSFP distributor for Lake County. That's a specific and small program for elderly and disabled individuals, and it's not just Lake County alone. It's a multitude of counties. Gleaners is the main food bank for Lake County, certainly. The cuts were not the entire program, so I am glad to hear that Lake County is still on the schedule to receive the full distribution. REFB currently, who knows what the future holds. Our REFB had reported a loss of approximately $700,000 in food deliveries that they would normally receive through that program. So while they are the CSFP provider, they have mentioned to me that they bring more food than CSFP gives them to cover for Lake County because of the need. So they do step in and provide some assistance as well.
It does.
We're very grateful to the Gleaners
and we're very grateful for Redwood. We do get some, they'll give us a list and say, we have this, and this available, and we'll order that way. So we're very grateful for all of it. We're all doing the same thing.
Absolutely. Feed the hungry in the community. The food resource list is also posted on Lake County Social Services Facebook page. It's available in both English and Spanish. It has a comprehensive list of all food banks, not just the Gleaners and Redwood Empire Food Bank. It's any organization who provides a food bank or meals to the community.
Thank you for that. And thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the chambers? Anyone on Zoom? All right. Anything?
That is the end of my updates. And lastly, I will mention that there are senior resource lists in the lobby in both English and Spanish if anyone would like to grab one in the public.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Could we get a copy of this presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, but if you want my notes, you can also have those. They're a little scratchy.
Yes, anything you're willing to send would be helpful because
Okay.
we get a lot of questions too in this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is going to help to, like, we'll be able to, like, this will be on the county website so people can actually, because there's questions like this in the town halls and whatnot, so this helps. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank you, Rachel, for tracking all of these. We need to be aware. We serve a lot of people who rely on a lot of these services. This is, we have high food insecurity in our county. We have a lot of needy folks who rely on these programs. So I really, really, truly appreciate how much you've put into tracking this. And that gives us the material so that we can do the advocation that we are doing. And I want to let everybody know that we are in constant contact with Congressman Thompson's office and with our lobbyists, with Paragon, our advocacy groups that we're a part of, CSAC, RCRC, NACO. All of those folks are tracking all of these so that we can share the resources. Because the number one thing that we have to do is look out for our people. We have to care for the people that live in Lake County. And that's the number one priority for all of us right now. So thank you, Rachel, and thank you to the staff and the partners. I know this was a long item, and we lost some along the way, but that's what makes us so strong, is that we have volunteers, we have networks, we have partners, we have agencies, we have all of these folks that care so deeply about the people of Lake County. And this is not something that, one agency or government can handle alone. We've known that for a long time. We've known that through everything that we've been through in the last 10 years with all the disasters. It takes all of us working together, and it also takes the community, it takes volunteers, it takes donations. It takes a lot to look out for the people that live here. So thank you everyone deeply from the bottom of my heart.
I will totally second that. Thank you to all of our partners and stepping up today to really give us a better and a clearer picture of how this will impact the people of Lake County. And I do think now more than ever, it's a time for us all to look out for our neighbors, especially if all of these cuts roll down from the federal level. The thing we'll be left with is taking care of our neighbors, perhaps.
So I appreciate the presentation. Unfortunately, what's said today could be completely different tomorrow. It's very chaotic. It's on and off, litigated against, paused, frozen. It's hard to track exactly where we are and what's going on. I know I get emails sometimes in the morning and I make a statement a little bit later on. Oops, I didn't check my email 10 minutes ago. It's back. I've never seen anything like this. I think most people, we talk to folks that are representing the entire nation, and they have never seen this before. It's a mess. Appreciate all the work that everybody does. We have a community that has a lot of needs, unfortunately. Our poverty rate creates that. Our lack of opportunities creates that. And there's a lot of work that's being done, and it's good work, and it's hard work. I'm going to say, however, I've been seeing things that are coming across this board where I don't know how sustainable it is that what we are doing can be continued. I also wonder, and I'm not saying, so again, hard work, good work, but we are not progressing towards getting better. It's outside forces. We don't control the real estate market. We don't control the state budget. We don't control other things. So it's not us. I think we're working really hard trying to do the best we can with what we have, but the numbers are just not getting better. The system isn't working. And so one thing that I don't know, and it concerns me, I don't see this changing at this moment in time, maybe 2 years down the road, but for now, I don't think this is changing. And I know that today we're talking about the needs and the advocacy, but it also sounds like we are looking to continue as is what we would like to see. What's Plan B?
The reality is the cuts will be coming.
But what I'm not seeing, and maybe it's being worked on, and I'm not hearing about that, but I know we're working on our budgets currently, and what is Plan B? How are we prioritizing different needs on what can be done to continue, because we're gonna have to eventually sit down and eventually look at prioritizing specific programs over other programs. And Lake County was pivotal in certain things that happened in Washington, D.C. When we were over there for our NACO conference. We would love to see the support that's needed because the need is so grand. But I also, I'm hearing in the back of my head Supervisor Valenzuela from Siskiyou County saying we were so adamant about continuing what we wanted that we never prepared for Plan B. And I'm wondering when Plan B.
But I don't want to scare the people with what those Plan Bs are. I mean, I have the best case scenario and like the worst case scenario, like how long can we survive with no federal funding? The answer is 2 months. Hopefully it does not come to that. I think a lot of, as you said, it's up in the air right now, and until more things are solidly known, like the passing of the federal budget, it's difficult to plan for the unknowns. Part of that analysis will come from CWDA and CDSS and all of the state level entities that provide guidance to us with regard to priorities. For instance, if Medi-Cal loses funding, it's already on the state's radar that some of the optional programs that the state of California has elected to enact will probably go away. So that's coverage for non-citizens and expansion under the Affordable Care Act, to increase the income limits for families. So we're talking about going back to classic Medi-Cal coverage, which is focused on the aged, blind, disabled, and to families with deprived children. That being a disabled parent, an absent parent, an unemployed parent, and there's a fourth one I'm forgetting because I haven't worked Medi-Cal in a very long time. But the parents themselves would not necessarily be eligible to the Medi-Cal coverage. Coverage only goes up for youth through age 21. So we're talking about a potential rollback of expansions depending on the level of cuts. So with the CalFresh program, they're talking about cuts to move the benefit levels back to the pre-pandemic levels, which are concerning given the rising cost of food, but that would be a potential impact if they're cutting the 230, I think it was billion from CalFresh. Another aspect is implementing work requirements, which CalFresh already has one, and you can have a waiver if you have a high unemployment level. California has that high unemployment level, so the work requirement for CalFresh has been waived in California. At the federal level, they're talking about implementing it just permanently, no waivers. For Medi-Cal, they are also talking about a work requirement, but I personally think that's more administrative churn than it is a benefit to the program, because a majority of the folks already on Medi-Cal are working or they're elderly or disabled. because of the expansions that have been implemented in the program. So we're preparing for what the changes may look like, but until it actually rolls down, there's not a whole lot to do other than guess and have a few nebulous plans ready. Sorry.
And I appreciate that, and I know that you're working on some of those things, but eventually we need to have an understanding of what are the options and what's our strategic plan with those options to be prepared for those things. And I'm hoping that between now and June that we can get some idea of what are the options that we're looking at, because kind of like just had some discussions about this because of an item later on our agenda, but training for emergencies prepares us for the emergency. I don't feel prepared for this upcoming potential emergency at this moment in time.
Totally willing to engage in those discussions more. I know what we can do with realignment versus what we can't. For instance, we can't throw realignment at actual CalFresh benefits issued to the public. Those have got to come through the state. I can use my realignment to pay for foster care if something happens with foster care and we need to bridge a gap. But realignment gets stretched further and further the more we have to make those adjustments. And for me, foster care would be number one on the what are we going to pay list. Sorry. Got to keep those kids housed.
And with the way realignment is, at one point you are robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Absolutely.
And it just takes away from other crucial programs that at least in the past we have prioritized. So I think that we're all serving the public. That's been stated quite often throughout this this presentation. Sometimes we need to look within our structure and what changes can be done, because there are a lot of similar agencies doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's not going to be popular, but maybe a way of consolidating those services under one roof is something that's going to help reduce the cost overall. So I think we have some potential ideas to move with, but we need to have hash those out. And I think that the board should definitely have a better understanding of what those options are in order to figure out when this does fall, we're ready to pull it out, because it's actually something that we've prepared for.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think analysis, at least on my end from CWDA, will be useful to that discussion. And I know other departments have other groups they're members of, like I'm also a member of NARO for housing in Section 8 and HUD, who has weekly updates at the federal level that I'm having staff attend.
Well, and we have to be aware of everything. That's why we're having this discussion. We can't make a plan B or a contingency plan without understanding the impacts across the board. And that's what we've been doing. I mean, we've been doing that with AAA since the beginning of the year. We've been doing that at NCO. We've been doing that with the food banks. Like, we're trying to find the other ways, because this is a reality that's happening. But we also have to figure out how no one gets left behind. And that's the issue. We have to make sure no one is left behind. So we're doing all of these things, but this is just an overview of what's happening, and it's the reality. So as we move, as we figure out, more, learn more, our advocates learn more, we will learn more. But it's really hard right now to have a plan B when everything is changing hourly. So we have to know where we are to start.
Yeah, I mean, I could work some if-then scenarios up, but it's hard to guess if-then. But as soon as we know enough to do that, I'm on it.
Thank you. And I think regardless, this is a good start, at least, to get in that direction, to do all of what we're talking about, plan, keep an eye on it, keep our hand on the pulse and whatnot, so we can prepare contingencies and whatnot. And I have been seeing emails with those thoughts, at least. We can't necessarily say this is it, because we don't know, right? Mm-hmm. So, but at the same time, I think we all want the same thing, to make sure we're ready in case things go forward from there. But all right, well, thank you for this. Thank you for all your work, all of you, very much so. We appreciate it. I know this is going to continue, but we're going to continue to put our best foot forward and keep our eye on this. So thank you, and we're going to go ahead and go into a break.